Hey guys, today we are going to talk about the controversy surrounding Disney's newest live-action movie, Snow White. I have genuinely never been more nervous to talk about a video topic because I know the hate train for this Snow White movie is a long one and a powerful one, and people are picking apart every single aspect of it. I don't think there's anything about this movie that's been left alone. When people are really set in their opinions, they're really set in their opinions, and nobody wants to hear anything otherwise. So let me make the disclaimer here that if you are stuck in your mind that you hate Snow White, you hate Rachel, you hate everything about it, and you don't want to hear me discuss the controversy and explain why some of these things shouldn't be controversial, this is not the video for you. Don't force yourself to watch this out of hatred. You can click away and go find the group of people who agree with you. This is all just my opinions on the things, so please feel free to click away if you know that this is just going to have you fuming, okay? I also want to say I'm not trying to make anyone love the movie. Obviously, if you hate the movie, you hate the movie. But I also don't think hating the movie is an excuse to hate every single person involved with it and make as big of a thing about it as people have. So let's talk about it. Buckle up because this is a bumpy ride. So Snow White from the 1937 movie Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is known as Disney's first princess officially, and she is also the first fictional female character to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And when this movie was released, it hit commercial and critical success. People loved it, especially because along with it being the first real princess movie, it was also Disney's first animated feature-length film, which was pretty cool. And by now we're all familiar with the classic story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. A young girl is living with her jealous evil stepmother who's constantly asking her magic mirror who's the fairest in all the land. And she's satisfied when the magic mirror tells her that it is her, but she's not so satisfied the day that Snow White finds a man that she likes and the magic mirror suddenly tells the evil queen that Snow White is the fairest in all the land. And of course that causes the evil queen to crash out, deciding that she needs to end Snow White's life so that she may continue reigning on as the fairest of them all. And she hires a huntsman to cut out Snow White's heart and bring it to her, but the huntsman failed in his task and pitied Snow White and let her go, so the evil queen decided that she needed to take matters into her own hands, and so she found the little cottage Snow White was residing in with the seven dwarfs, gave her a poison apple, and she died. Only the evil queen didn't think that true love would save her, because when the dwarves were mourning and buried Snow White in a glass coffin, the prince wanted to kiss her, and the kiss saved her life, and then the evil queen fell off of a big cliff, and that was that. And everyone lived happily ever after. It's a classic film, and the story of Snow White is one that's been referenced. There's been movies and shows that try and retell the tale of Snow White, my favorite personally being Once Upon a Time Snow White, which by the way I think is a perfect example of Snow White kind of being a little bit of a girl boss but also being romantic, which is kind of what this movie wanted to try and do, maybe minus the romantic part.
All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
But anyways, Disney finally decided it was time to give a live-action adaptation to the movie that started it all for them, like they had with Cinderella, Mulan, The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, whatever else, Beauty and the Beast, whatever else they've decided to do, they decided it was time to do it for Snow White. Snow White was released officially on March 21st of 2025, but it has been talked about since at least 2021 or 2022. And the movie already had a rough start going for it, as I guess there was a fire on set that caused them to have to, set back filming and production stuff. And then also there was the actors' strike in 2023, which definitely delayed the production a lot more, causing them to eventually just make the final release date 2025. So this movie has literally been in discussion for years, and I know Rachel and the other people who were a part of this movie have been talking about it for years, and there's been controversy surrounding this movie for several years. So let's break down exactly what people are saying is wrong with Snow White. The first controversy, of course, is the casting of Rachel Zegler, as she is a Latino woman. And it was a choice that many people found questionable, since Snow White is originally described as having skin as white as snow. And this resulted in many people literally like screaming profanities at her, sending her hate and death threats, all because a brown girl was portraying Snow White and they didn't think it was right. And frankly, I don't give a single fuck what Snow White looks like. I still think Rachel looks beautiful. Literally, other than the description that she has skin as white as snow, there's no relevance to her skin color in the plot whatsoever. So I guess in this adaptation, they made her name Snow White to reflect her resilience in surviving a snowstorm, so Snow White. And whatever, I don't care. But obviously this caused a lot of people to get angry immediately, calling this a bad choice, saying that Disney's already trying to be too woke, especially after they hired a colored woman to play Ariel, which also didn't sit right with people, even though it shouldn't not sit right with people, because Ariel is literally a fish. It does not matter what she looks like, really. Maybe the reasoning for her name in this was a little cheesy, but who cares? They found a reasoning for it, and that's fine with me. But that, of course, was the first big controversy of this film. People were also mad at the casting of Rachel to play Snow White because they deemed her a Snow White hater, and they said someone who hates Snow White that much should not be portraying Snow White. And I think people are just genuinely, like, severely misunderstanding what Rachel said about the movie. Back in an interview in 2022, Rachel described the movie as being different and, describing the changes between this and the original, as she called the original storyline a bit outdated, and she pointed out some of the creepy and stalkerish behavior that the prince in the original movie displayed.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
And people weren't too keen to hear that. They didn't like the idea that Snow White was changing, and they didn't like the fact that Rachel made a comment that it wasn't really a love story, because they said that's the whole point of Snow White. People were claiming that in attempting to be a feminist, Rachel was actually doing the opposite and trying to erase the fact that it's okay for women to be romantic, and they claimed that she was diminishing the generations of people who love and adore the original Snow White. And I guess in another interview somewhere, she said that she only watched Snow White once as a child because it scared her, and so people obviously didn't take too kindly to that fact either. Which obviously I'm sure Rachel watched Snow White again as an adult and gained familiarity with it. Like, I'm sure they didn't just take her one, like, I watched it one time and rolled with it. You know what I mean? And you know what? Snow White scared me as a child too. So did Sleeping Beauty. So I don't think it's necessarily hateful of her to say that. I also will point out that in order to play a character, you don't have to like every single thing about that character. You don't have to like every single thing that character does and stands for. You just have to play it well. Obviously, it helps to like the character that you're portraying, but you don't have to. I also don't think calling it outdated is that big of an insult, considering it was literally released in 1937 and it is 2025. And with that being said, obviously I don't think there is anything wrong with a classic love story, and I don't think that Disney needed to take that and completely erase that. But I do get why they were trying to change it, and I don't think that it's all necessarily Rachel's fault either. Obviously, I'm sure they had some concept of what they wanted the movie to be before they hired people to portray the characters in it. And while Rachel might have agreed with the changes that they made in this, that doesn't mean that she's the one who made all of them. And just because she spoke about it doesn't mean that she's the one who made them either, because those were interviews for the movie. Obviously, they're going to talk highly about the movie that they're taking part of. You know what I mean? And it is also important to remember that the first several princesses that Disney had did kind of focus on a more romantic storyline and princesses dreaming about getting their prince, which no, isn't inherently wrong, but we also, want to say that it's okay to not. So I feel like it's a complicated place between, trying to stick to its origins and also trying to promote this new mindset that you don't need that. I don't know. And also, I don't like that everyone's acting like Rachel is the first person to call out how strange the prince was. I've literally seen it all over the internet that Prince, I think his name was Florian, First red flag, by the way, but I guess Florian was like 31, in his 30s, while Snow White was intended to be 14. Obviously, that's an issue. People have been calling that out for years. And I've also seen numerous statements online, both serious and unserious, of saying that the prince was just a necrophiliac because he had this deep desire to kiss a beautiful dead girl. And so people have been making comments and jokes about that for years, calling out the weird storyline, but when Rachel does it, it's a criminal offense. You know, I just think that's a bit strange. So maybe it's good that some aspects of it change. Another reason Rachel has faced controversy is because of her pro-Palestinian and anti-Donald Trump comment. In August of 2024, when the initial trailer was first circulating the media, Rachel made a tweet, or X. What are we supposed to call tweets now that Twitter is X? But she made a tweet thanking fans for the support of the trailer, and then at the end of the tweet she added, "And as always, free Palestine." And obviously this set people off, saying that it was wrong for her to do this in what was basically a press-related post, and saying that she didn't need to take her comments there. But I can admire her using her platform to spread awareness, and also, like, while it was technically like related to Snow White, like, she was literally just thanking her fans, and then she happened to add that "and as always, free Palestine" on there. But because of her comments, Rachel has also been blamed for the amount of death threats that have been given to her co-star who played the evil queen, Gal Gadot, because Gal Gadot is Israeli, and so obviously people are calling her Zionist and not too fond of her. And so apparently it's been confirmed that Disney is trying to bench Rachel and that she's been banned from her own press tour because they believe she's just a PR nightmare, and they don't like that they had to hire extra security and stuff for Gal when all of this was going down. And people obviously wanted to believe that her pro-Palestinian comment was a direct dig at Gal. But honestly, I think the hate would have came either way if people wanted to hate on Gal, you know what I mean? I don't think it's directly Rachel's fault. She never specifically called out Gal. They've been working together well. And as someone who was getting threats herself for being a brown girl playing Snow White, I don't think she would want to do anything that would purposefully get death threats aimed at someone else, you know? And it's also not her fault that that's just what the internet has taken to as forms of hatred. Honestly, hate culture, in my opinion, has just gone entirely too far. Like, by all means, if someone does something terrible and unforgivable, cancel them, stop following them online, don't support the new material they put out. That's fine, but everyone has resorted to literally like threatening people, and it's kind of terrifying. Which obviously, this is another controversy of the film, the hiring of Gal Gadot, which there's really not much to say on the topic other than the fact that she's Israeli and they hired her, and people don't like that. People just always want a celebrity to speak up, and then when one actually does, it's a problem. From all my research, I've literally looked up so many interviews and stuff. I could not find Rachel being like aggressive about this pro-Palestine thing. I've never seen like her being that weird about it. All I could really find was the tweet where she said, "As always, free Palestine" at the end of it. She's also not the first person to speak up about Palestine. Former Scream actress Melissa Barrera took to her Instagram to post, you know, a pro-Palestinian message, which ended up getting her removed from Scream. And she was obviously immediately hit with support and people wanting to boycott the franchise because of it, as they should. But I guess I just don't understand why when someone else is speaking up about it, it's like, woo, what a girl boss, like, support. And then when Rachel does it, it's like she's ruining the entire movie that she's a part of. I guess I just don't get that. And of course, there's just the simple things of people calling Rachel untalented, saying she can't sing or saying she can't act, pointing out scenes in the movie where they claim she can't act, which I do think is kind of funny that people are trying to call her untalented now, because when the clip was circulating in the media of her singing Romeo and Juliet Me, everyone was talking about the phenomenal talent that she had. And when she was in The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I'm pretty sure everyone loved her as well because everyone loves The Hunger Games. but because it's this, suddenly all of her acting sucks. Which obviously, yeah, the acting for a Disney movie is going to be different than that in like a Hunger Games movie. Maybe just the way she was told to act is just why people think it's bad acting. But even if I don't like all of the songs in the movie, I still think that she sung them well. I think her voice is beautiful, and I do think it would have been fun to hear her sing in like a softer voice, but I still think she sounds good. You know, I don't think it's like a reflection of her lack of talent, you know? And obviously, another controversy that's not really about Rachel, but sort of, is the costuming. People don't like her Snow White costume, which I have to admit is not my favorite. I don't really love her costume. I don't really love the prince's costume. Ironically, the only costume that I really liked visually was that of the evil queen. And the last bigger controversy that I could find of the movie was the casting of the dwarfs. Apparently Disney had originally intended to hire 7 people with dwarfism to portray the roles of the 7 dwarfs, but Peter Dinklage, an actor with dwarfism, spoke up about and explained his problem with this, saying that he thought it was great that they were hiring a Latina actress to play Snow White, but that they were really just taking a step backwards because they were doing something that was progressive, but then they were also just being fucking backward, saying it was just a backward story about 7 dwarfs living in a cave together. And he said, all love and respect to the actresses and all the people who thought they were doing the right thing, but I'm just like, what are you doing? And he also expressed offense with the fact that people with dwarfism are often only cast as like fantasy characters and not just as the people that they are. And this resulted in Disney announcing that instead of hiring real people, they were going to use CGI to create the dwarfs, which obviously a lot of people are bashing the appearance of, saying they look weird, and obviously now saying that they should have just hired real people. Another actor with dwarfism, Dylan Postal, had said that he was sick to his stomach because of the CGI dwarfs, saying there may have been 7 roles for dwarfs that can't get normal acting roles, or very few and far between roles, and now they're gone because of this guy. I know me and 6 other little people who would love this role. Disney, call me. This would be a dream role for me. I am begging for one. And obviously I don't have dwarfism, so I can't really speak and say what the right course of action would be, but obviously there's 2 conflicting statements going on. One person with dwarfism saying that, you know, they should be cast, give people an opportunity to portray these roles and that they love it, and then also someone saying, don't do this is offensive, this is backwards, and this is wrong. So I feel like it does put Disney in a tricky spot in hiring, because someone is going to be offended either way. A lot of people were also just saying that the dwarf should be cut from the movie in general, but genuinely, like, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but is that not like a important part of the movie? Like, if not the love story, like the dwarfs definitely, because she literally like lives with them. They build the coffin for her. I guess in this movie they just have her lay on a pile of rocks, but you know, in the original they build the coffin for her. They are kind of a monumental part of the story. I would like to believe that they made the dwarfs with CGI with good intentions, and obviously not wanting to create offense, but now it's also causing people to deem the movie too woke entirely, with both the combination of like the hiring of Rachel and the storyline change, and now just making the dwarfs out of CGI. It's once again adding to the idea that Snow White is just all too woke. Which in some ways, I feel like Disney has no choice but to go woke. Because look at Moana 2. It literally had such an amount of controversy about it. I still haven't seen it, by the way, but I saw all the hatred for it, saying it was literally like demonic and terrible and something your kid should never see. And like, I saw the first one. How bad could it possibly be? People are going to get mad and offended at anything and everything these days, so I feel like a lot of people literally have no choice but to go woke and try and do everything in their power to stop offense from happening. Let's say Disney had gone on and hired 7 people with dwarfism portray the 7 dwarfs, and let's say then someone spoke up and said that this was offensive and terrible and wrong. Like, what would have happened then if they'd gone on and done it? Then those people probably would have been receiving a lot of hate for agreeing to portray the 7 dwarfs. Disney would have gotten hate for doing so. Like, I feel like they were bound to do hate either way. And if you happen to have dwarfism, you can let me know what you think the right course of action is. Do you think they should have been CGI? Do you think they should have hired real people? What do you think should have been done? Like, obviously, I can't speak from experience on this one, but I just genuinely think that Disney would have been doomed whichever way they went about it. And say they did go and just remove the seven dwarfs from the storyline in general, that would have just been another reason for people to hate on this movie too, saying that they're really messing with the original and changing the story entirely too much. There is so much stuff that people are mad about in this movie, it's actually insane. And I can admit, I don't think all of the songs are the greatest bops, I don't think all of the costumes are the prettiest costumes, but I just wish some of the hatred would stop. I do think some of the songs are a little catchy. I think the Whistle While You Work is very catchy and I like the choreography for it. I think that was good. But all in all, I do think that people are being very picky and finding any and every reason to hate on this just because they want to. And everyone just kind of wants to jump on the hate train lately, and it's insane to me. Like, you don't have to like this movie, but that doesn't mean we have to pick it apart and make everything about it a bad thing. I don't know. You can let me know your opinions. Did you see the movie? Did you like it? Be honest if you liked it. Did you hate it? I'm not even here to say it's a good movie or that you should love it, but I just think a lot of the controversies are insane. So, but that is going to be all for this video, and I'll see y'all in my next. Peace out.